Hey everybody, welcome back to another Small Business Spotlight. My name is Jubihiro, obviously. Thank you guys for joining. I'm here with my good friend and referral partner, Edgar Ndjatou, who is the principal and founder of Officium. Edgar, thanks so much for joining us today. Today's in the middle of like a lot of stuff going on right now, right across the country, across the world. The pandemic kind of on the way out-ish, I guess we figure, like we don't even know where we're standing with that, but things are opening back up. Companies are asking people to come back to the office, and we're seeing a lot of different things happening, and we're in the middle of what's called the Great Resignation, and people are calling it that, right? So, as an HR consultant, from your point of view, what are you seeing from your point of what are the things that you're seeing in companies that they're doing right now, both on the good and the bad side?
Yeah. Well, I think that what's probably the most important thing that companies need to do right now is read the room when it comes to what employees are looking for. And I don't think that anymore it's okay just to demand certain things without having a good reason or engaging employees in that process. So, for example, when you talk about um, companies wanting employees to come back to work, uh, I don't think it's just enough for an employer to say that that's what we're doing and expect employees just to follow suit. Um, I think now it's more important that you engage employees in the process before making a final decision, on whether or not um, it makes sense for employees to come back to the office. What does that even look like? Is it, a full 5 days a week? Is it just, 2 days a week and the rest you can stay at home? I think it has to be more nuanced when it comes to that because people have gotten used to working from home more. And when you look at commute times and what's happening in the economy in general, employees do have some genuine concerns about the impact to their bottom line and their productivity if they have to commute an hour to and from work every day and or pay for gas prices or what have you. Um, so I think it's super important that employers, um, really think through how to message things and how to engage employees in the process of making decisions like coming back to work. And when you come back to the office, and when you think about the Great Resignation in general, um, you know, to me, it's a I wouldn't say that it's anything new per se. I think what you can glean from that is that people are just having a moment to re-examine what's important to them when it comes to a work life, and I think it's incumbent upon employers to read the room carefully, and not just assume that people just don't want to work anymore, or they're just lazy, or they're just not capable, right? If you look at salaries and benefits and work-life balance, that's important to people, and if you want to attract the best people or keep your best people, you have to adapt to what employees are saying in the changing times.
Yeah, I know, I agree with that. I think that that's an important thing, is like reading that room. But I think the question is even a further step back, right? It's like, well, how do employees even do that? Because I think that that's one of the challenges they're dealing with. Like, how do you even
Yep.
listen to your employees? How do you create that dialogue where it's actually a meaningful dialogue and not just like, oh, we did a survey and we're gonna just use the convenient parts of the survey and ignore the parts that don't that tell us we're doing something wrong or whatever, or we're not doing something as well as we want to. Because I know that I was at the Sherm conference a couple weeks ago, and they were talking about that. And one of the things I talked about with them was that, right? Like, how do you actually create a meaningful dialogue with your employees that allows you to elicit that feedback? And I think another part of it too is that are they getting the feedback that they want? Are they getting feedback from that they're looking for? Because a lot of times they're not, because they don't have a culture of that. The culture of feedback is not in that organization. So there's a couple steps before the step, I feel like.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and I think part of it is building trust, and you have to do a little by little. So if you say you're going to do something, do it and follow through on it. And I think once you do that, employees see that you're trustworthy as an employer, and then they'll be more open to um, giving more feedback or providing the response you actually want to hear when you ask them about certain things. So I think that's one area where employers could benefit is, if you are going to do something, if you're going to say, hey, we're going to reach out to everyone individually and talk through your experiences in the workplace and safe space and in an anonymous way, then do it. You know, don't just say it and never do it. So if you're gonna say you're gonna do something, commit to something, actually follow through on it, and that goes a long way in creating trust and a safe space for employees to feel that they can um, really give feedback, meaningful feedback about their experiences and how to help the company. Um, Another thing is that I'm just a big fan of including employees on decisions, and so if you're creating a committee of like some of your management folks to talk through, okay, how do we revamp our benefits, maybe have an employee or two on that committee, include them in that process, so that way they can give their perspective and talk on behalf of the employees, because ultimately the employees are the ones who you're doing the benefits for. And so why not, you know, go to the source and get their point of view, and get their insight and have them included in the process, right? Because I agree, just doing a survey, while it can be important and helpful, right? It's only part of the process in terms of fully assessing what your needs are from a human capacity perspective. But I'm just a big believer in transparency, and having employees involved in the process, whether it's from the beginning or before you make a final decision. Maybe get a group in place together as a focus group and say, okay, here's what we're thinking. Do you think this would be helpful to you and your colleagues or not? Where can we fine tune or change course on something? Because ultimately, you want a response when you unveil something where people are generally happy and excited and feel that their needs are being met, right? If that's not the case, then you failed. you know, it's pretty black and white there, at least in my book.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. I think that's one of the key things is following through, like you said earlier. And I think that follow through comes in a couple different ways, right? I mean, you can create those focus groups, but again, if you take the data and only take the convenient data that works for your purposes and ignore the stuff that's difficult or that's it actually takes a lift on your part, then you're doing a disservice to your organization, to your employees, to everyone who contributed and to spend time to give you that feedback, right? And then that creates that cycle again where they don't want to give you feedback anymore because hey, what's the point, right?
Right, right.
That's one of the things where it's like, okay, we need to make sure that the things are functioning and that they keep improving, right?
Yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah, I couldn't agree
So on
more.
your side of things, so from your point of view, Edgar, when you're talking to companies right now, what are the maybe one or two biggest mistakes that the companies are making right now?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say that right now, particularly the cost of living going up in many places, on top of the fact that you have, you know, inflation and potential for a recession, I think this is a really good time to re-examine um, base compensation for employees, whether it's hourly employees or salary employees, because again, if people feel as if their money that they're taking home from work is not enough to afford even basic needs, or whether it's just paying the rent, buying groceries, childcare, then that's going to affect their productivity at work because they're constantly worrying about um, you know things at home, or they might get a second job because they feel that they need to make ends meet somehow, or they're just not happy because they feel like they underpaid. And so I think it's really important to do that, and to be creative. Like, look, I fully understand, and I work with clients that don't have they have limited resources, right? You don't have, you can only pay as much as the money is coming in, right? So I fully get that. Um, but there are other ways that you can show people that you value them, right? So whether it's you just do a bonus, or you re-examine, okay, maybe you don't come in as much because you can save money on gas, or you give people gas cards, or you re-examine your
Yeah.
benefits and find ways to provide benefits um, or employee engagement um, strategies that make you feel better about coming to work and that you feel valued. So yes, I think my first response is important because I think everyone should at least do the exercise of re-examining their base compensation for employees to make sure it's competitive, and that it's realistic in light of market conditions right now. And but one A or one A to that is, um, particularly if you are um, dealing with limited resources, there might be ways that you can spruce up your benefits that don't really cost anything to you, or it's a small cost to you, but um, a bigger impact on your employees that you can do. Um, I was just telling one employer that they should pay for trainings or workshops, and not necessarily anything related to, let's say, work, but just things like financial wellness or stress management or anything that it yeah, it's not necessarily like for your bottom line per se, but it's going to make your employees feel much better about some things, right? And
Absolutely.
that's
No,
right.
no, and I'm glad you mentioned that because base compensation is one piece of it, right? It's one piece of the pie, but it's not the only piece. It's honestly not even the biggest piece, frankly. I mean, like you look at people who are willing to take a pay cut just to get away from, bad situations.
Right.
If you have situations where you're making life convenient for them, when you're saying like, look, we're going to pay full health care, or we're going to offer, a gym membership, or even something that, like you said, doesn't even cost them anything, like just having brown bags every now and then, having professionals come in, like financial advisors or things like that, that can allow them to let their money go farther, right? Or provide, create those opportunities for them to really get in front of people that could benefit them on a personal and professional level,
Yeah.
like making those trainings available to them. That's huge. I mean, and that's a really great way for even smaller employers to be able to say, hey, yeah, I really want to do this and make a benefit for my employees so that they can, see real results, real value, despite us not having the money to invest a crap ton more in them. And then as soon as possible, they can ramp up those benefits. But that goes a long way with employees, honestly. I mean, like you talk to employees across the board. I mean, you're on the HR side of things. I'm on the leadership and the employee side of things, where I hear from them directly, and a lot of times they're like, "Hey, this company has awesome benefits," like, and that's what they're more concerned about than salary, right?
Right. And
So
one thing I would
awesome. And
add
so,
to
go ahead, go ahead,
yeah,
sorry.
sorry, Drew. One thing I would add to what we're just talking about is, you know, it one thing that I think people forget is that employees are constantly looking to be more marketable, and that can be like a loaded term, but it can just be even for your benefit, right? And I think it's important, particularly when you do performance reviews or you're doing check-ins, that if like make sure you give people the space to talk about what they're looking to do in terms of developing themselves. Whether it's to want to go to a certain training or a conference or gain certain skills or work on certain projects to get certain experiences. And again, making helping someone um, meet their career goals. Again, it's a small cost to you, but a bigger impact to the employee because they feel nurtured. You know, um, and recently, a friend of mine told me that his wife, took on a new job, and she really wanted to stay at her old job. She made it very clear she wanted to stay. She really liked the work, and she was telling her managers, "Here are the things that will keep me here," and they didn't listen to her. And then when she announced that she was going to move on, they freaked out, and then they started, offering her different things and realized how valuable she was given what she was doing for them. And she it's too late. I took the job, and it's a better opportunity for me, and you had your chance. And so again, it I think we always, you might hear from other professionals about, it's about the money, and more money means more happiness. It's not necessarily true, and particularly in a world where a lot of businesses have limited resources, and that is a real thing. There are just many other things you can do to make your employees happy and wanting to stay.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to the whole idea of being, proactive versus reactive, right? A lot of companies are just reactive, right? They wait for something to go wrong before they take any steps to try to say, oh, we want to do something differently, or we want to keep this employee around, right? If your friend is telling him, her boss over and over again, hey, this is what I need to do to stick around, and he wasn't listening, and then only when she announces she's leaving that he's like, oh, let me scramble and try to do stuff, it just shows what the priorities are, right?
Right.
And that
Right.
kind of stuff is it's not really excusable at that point. And it's
Yeah.
just, it's sad, but at the same time, you're going to get what you deserve at that point, right? You're not investing in your employees. But I think another question that even again kind of predates that question of like, what can we do to keep you, is like, what do you even do? Like, if you're doing with something right now, if you're in a role right now, is this the role you want to be in 6 months from now, or a year from now, or 5 years from now, right? So it's not only helping them in their career development plans in the vertical that they're in right now, but making sure that they're even in the vertical they want to be in, right? And checking on that every so often. So it's like, okay, you're right now, you're a developer, front end developer or something like that. And like, maybe you want to be a back end developer. Maybe you want to totally
Right.
move to being a BA altogether, right? Like, or maybe you want to do
Yeah.
sales. Who knows?
Yeah.
But being able to
And I would add,
facilitate that is huge.
yeah, and I would add to that that even if you don't have that vertical, like maybe that person created for you, and that's a new service or product line that you can now offer because you gave this person that you value a lot the opportunity to be a little entrepreneurial, develop a new department for you or a new product or service you can provide to clients, and they're the expert and they even become even more invaluable to you, particularly if, again, if you're unlimited resources, you give them, a cut of the income from that thing they developed. You know, um, it. There's just so many ways you can do this. And it doesn't have to be, um, just sheer. Just let me just give you more money as base compensation. It as long as you're willing to be creative and have an open mind about things, then it will allow you to expand the universe of opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely, man. No, I love that. And being creative is huge. I mean, you can be extremely creative with benefits about what would benefit employees, but that's awesome. And I'm hoping companies are listening to what you're saying in this. And if you're not, replay that last 30 seconds and then watch that like 5 6 times. Um, but Edgar, we're wrapping up on time here, so I wanted to ask you the question that's on everyone's minds right now. You're an entrepreneur. You've had an entrepreneurial journey. You've been on the show before, obviously. But this time I wanted to ask you a question that I've been asking people in the last few months, which is really like, in your journey and your entrepreneurial experience, who have been, either the person or persons who have been the most influential in your life and in your journey as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I have been very, very fortunate to be surrounded by a very a extremely great community of entrepreneurs and professionals that I can fully rely upon for their expertise or their counsel or advice. Um, and and when I started, doing HR consulting on my own, um, there were tons of people, including you, Drew, for that matter, that I came to for advice about how do I price things, or how do I do marketing, what are there groups I should join that will help me get clients. Talk just someone you can talk shop or share concerns with, and I say this in that being an entrepreneur can be a very lonely experience, because it's just you and everything's on you, and your accounts payable, your the bill collector, the one who has to deliver the service, and client relations. It's a lot on you, right? Um and like a lot of things in life, you shouldn't go through this stuff alone, and you should have a community of people that you can rely upon. So even if it's not, let's say, talking shop, but someone that knows what you're going through and can be like your support network. Um, and so that is, the to anyone that it goes into entrepreneurship, that's probably the first thing I say or ask is, well, who's your community of people that you can rely upon? Because if you don't have that, then you need to start creating that, because you just never know what can come up. But more importantly, even if things are great, you want to be able to share that with other people. That, hey, things are going great. How can I be of value to you? So that's my parting advice.
I love that, man. I mean, and then it goes back to the whole mastermind idea, right? It's like having that mastermind around you, have like the group of people that you can bounce ideas off of, be that kind of board of advisors, unofficial or official, either way, right? that's invaluable. And especially people with experience who have the same kind of experience you're having, and also different perspectives of it, right? But that entrepreneurial journey being extremely lonely, yeah, I think everyone can relate to that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
awesome. Edgar, thank you so much, man, for taking the time today. I really appreciate it. For those of you who
Absolutely.
are not familiar with Edgar and his work, please check out the description below. It's gonna have a link to his website as well as an email address for him. You can reach out to him directly. And yeah, anything you want to leave people with, last minute thoughts, Edgar?
I would say, particularly an entrepreneur, be kind to yourself. Um, you know, yes, there are times where you might have some self doubt, or things aren't, you don't have a great week, but just remember that the next week can be a fantastic one. So take care of yourself, be kind to yourself. Um, have work life balance. Very easy for us to work very long hours because it's our business, it's our passion. But just remember, they got to take care of yourself too. Both mentally, physically, and all of that. So just be good to yourself, and success will always come.
Love that, dude. All right, everybody, take care of yourselves. Stay safe. Follow Edgar's advice. Take care of yourselves out there. And yeah, reach out to Edgar if you have any questions about HR. And happy to be here as a resource for anything else. Take care, everybody. Stay safe. Have a great week.
Take care,
And I'll
everyone.
see you all next time.
Bye.